Hi friends, this is Nicole Marguerite. Thank you for tuning into the No Show on my YouTube channel. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this meaningful conversation with this month's special guest. My show shines a light on the good things that are happening in the world that are healing humanity and some of the challenges we will face. I also like to cover topics that are sometimes uncomfortable or difficult to talk about. You know the no-nos in today's modern society. I hope this show will inspire you to advocate for human rights and for equality for all people and spark a love revolution. Let's get this show on the road. I'm really excited about my next guest, Dr. Richard Price. I know him as Ricky. He has been a dear friend and colleague for almost 15 years of my adult life. Dr. Richard Albert Price is a scholar and proudly gay with over a decade of experience supporting the transition from school to work for individuals with disabilities. He holds a master's degree in Rehabilitation and Vocational Counseling, Kinesiology, and an ABA for Autism from Michigan State University. He recently earned a Ph.D. in Special Education from the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. Dr. Price is passionate about understanding the diverse identities and experiences with individuals with disabilities, a commitment shaped by growing up with a sibling and witnessing the shortcomings in including people with disabilities in education and society. One of his areas of focus is the intersectionality of the LGBTQ IA+ and disabilities. Please welcome my very dear friend, Ricky Price. Hi, Ricky.
Hi, Nicole. Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. Thank you for being on the No Show. It's nice to see you again.
It is great to see you as well. I love talking with you, so I am honored to be here.
Before we talk about the great work we are doing, I wanted to share with the audience how we met. We have known each other for about 13 years and have worked on various projects together. What is your memory of how we connected?
It is crazy to think that it's been 13 years. I feel like time flies by. So my earliest memory is Camp Pals in San Francisco. And I was reflecting on this before joining the call with you today. And I honestly don't know what it was, but I just felt like I just connected with you like right off the bat. Like, I mean, it was just very easy to talk with you. It was very easy to kind of share about myself and to learn more about you. You're very personable. And so I think because of how open you were, it was such a cool relationship that started to build. And you put in the effort with a friendship to like continue to talk with me. I put in effort to continue to talk with you. And I think that makes such a great relationship.
That's very awesome. I'm glad we connected through Camp Outs.
Yes, I am too. And I think it has been such a relationship that has flourished into so many different things that I'm sure we'll talk about today. But I've been honored to be a friend of yours.
So how did you decide on a career in special education and focusing on your work on people with disabilities?
It's a great question. Thank you for asking. So I have a family member who has a disability, and so that was the initial kind of force that drove me into becoming in this field. And I really wanted I saw the very kind of negative aspects that special education can have, meaning that there is a lack of education and support for people with disabilities and their families. And so I tried to learn as much as possible to understand that system, to understand what families were going through. Was it the same experience as mine? Was it different? And through that, that's how I fell into Camp Pals, to gain more experiences from a very different side of working with people with disabilities. And I thought I wanted to be a special education teacher. I ended up going a different route on that path, because I didn't want to be a teacher in that moment. And so, went through a lot of different education, a lot of different experiences, and ended up back in special education, which is kind of funny to think about. But more on the side of, I want to make sure that our future teachers, our future professionals, therapists, people who are going to work with those with disabilities, are best prepared to support them. And I really want to change the system in a positive way, because we all see the challenges that people with disabilities have to overcome. And I want to start kind of dismantling that. And so that's kind of the long workaround of, initially it was because of my family that really kind of got me into this. And I just kept, that snowball just kept getting bigger and bigger. And then here we are.
That's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's been really cool, and I think it's a cool full circle moment to be now in a position where I'm educating future teachers. It's a very unique position to be in, because I can bring a lot of my own experiences, but I very deeply value, and this with the work that we've done together, that I don't identify as having a disabled. I am not disabled. And so I am not the expert on disability. People with disabilities, disabled people, are the experts, and we should be listening to them. We should be uplifting their voices and their experiences. And I really uphold that in all of my classes by bringing in guest speakers, by bringing in those perspectives. Honestly, if I wasn't the one that taught my students, that's fine. I would rather them hear from people with lived experiences so that they can be the best practitioners in their future.
Thank you for that information.
Yeah, of course.
What made you decide to get a PhD?
That is
And can you also tell me more about your PhD area of focus?
Yeah, of course, for sure. So that it's crazy that I got a PhD. Now that I look back on it, I was like, I can't believe I put myself through 4 years of that nonsense. No, it's not nonsense, but it is a commitment, to say the least. So the reason that I got into, or the reason that I wanted to get a PhD, was I really like school. I've been in school for such a long time. I have a couple of different master's degrees. But that wasn't the reason why I necessarily wanted to get kind of this terminal degree. I was working as a clinician, as a BCBA, for supporting students with autism or intellectual disabilities. And I felt like I didn't have enough knowledge to, best support them in the school systems, because I wasn't a teacher. And I was really kind of supporting and coaxing that. So I was like, okay, I could go back to school and learn a little bit more, but that's not enough. I also recognize that there's a need for a lot more research, supporting, these systems that protect people with disabilities and educate them. So I was like, hey, that could be a really cool area for me. And a lot of people told me that you're only going to get listened to if you have the PhD behind your name or a doctor in front of your name. And what I mean by that is, I was trying to be in spaces like nonprofits or like more government spaces to make policy changes or to learn more about it and help advocate. And unfortunately, the world that we're in is, if you don't have a certain credential or a certain kind of title, you're not listened to as much. And I don't want to perpetuate that at all through this conversation. And that's not the reason why I only got a PhD. but I was like, all right, I want a seat at the table a little bit more so that with the power that I have with this title, that I can then create the space for people like you, for other disabled people and other advocates to have a voice and have an experience and for us to listen to them. I also wanted to train the future professionals of the world. And unfortunately, you have to have a PhD to do that. So that was kind of why I got into getting a PhD. Specifically, what I focus on is a lot. I have my hands in a lot of different things. As you know, we do a lot of different projects together, but I specifically support those with more significant support needs, intellectual and developmental disabilities in the transition from high school into work. So I really like to focus on this idea of career development and the positive nature that work can have for a lot of people, creating social networks, financial independence, if that is what is need, giving back to the community and having that societal integration. And I think everybody deserves to work and do what they want to do and what they love. And there is a high unemployment rate for people with disabilities, especially those with significant disabilities. And I wanted to help support that and to change that. So that's my main area of research and focus. But of course, I do a lot of many different things, as you know, with our project with self-determination and people with disabilities who identify as LGBTQ.
So your degree brought you more credibility?
Yes, that right on the you nailed it right on the head. I think this is a very big conversation to have, but I don't like that, to be honest. I don't like how we have a society where you have to have a certain credential to be considered an expert or to be considered credible. I, in my no means do I identify as an expert. I actually really don't like that word at all, because I think we're all constantly learning and constantly growing, and that we should. And I feel like this word expert means I'm good. Like I can stop learning, I can stop doing things. And I'm constantly learning and going back to school and, learning from people like you or learning from those with lived experiences. And so I hate that getting a PhD made me seem more credible in certain spaces, but unfortunately, that was a little bit of a motivation, and unfortunately, that's kind of the world that we're in.
We have done some work together on topics of the intersectionality of the LGBTQ and disabilities. Why do you think it's important to raise awareness about this topic?
Yeah, it's a wonderful question, and you have such a great platform to talk about these issues, and especially right now, I think given our current political climate, it is beyond important to talk about this. So we're in a world where unfortunately people within the LGBTQ community are still being attacked and are still, not having a seat at the table. But if we look further in that community, I think those who are disabled, people with disabilities who identify as LGBTQ, they have even less of a voice and a less of a seat at the table, which is not right. And everybody deserves the right to focus on their sexuality, their gender identity, and there's so much more to that. Exploring like who you are, what you like, what you don't like, and people with disabilities deserve the right to explore all of those issues or all of those concepts of who they are, and how they identify, and they deserve to be educated as well on that. And you and I have talked a lot about this, that the education that is provided to usually people with disabilities around sexuality and gender identity is close to non-existent. It's getting better, and there's a lot of more people in these spaces for sure. But it's so important to bring awareness to this topic, because these people matter and we can't erase them. They're not going anywhere. And so we need everyone to get onto board to best support them.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Yeah, it is such a is such an important topic, as you and I directly know as well with our own lived experiences.
Especially the intersectionality is like what you said, the political route, it's like devastating.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we're in a very interesting time of history where we're like taking 10 steps backwards, but we really need to kind of reevaluate, and like we can't let that happen. And that intersectionality is so important. Everybody has intersecting identities, and we have to acknowledge that and we have to support that.
I agree. You helped launch my short film First X. What do you think about the film,
Mhm.
and what were some of your big takeaways for you?
Yeah, of course. It was such a beautiful film that you were a part of. And so I was honored to help you launch that. That was such a cool experience in my kind of professional career and in our relationship. Um, I think the biggest thing that I took away from that film was the representation of many different things. So the representation of people with disabilities or disabled people. And sorry, I keep using those two terms interchangeably because I know many different people prefer this identity first language versus person first. And so I want to be respectful of that. But I think the film does a really great job at representing, you know, disabled people in the media, which is very important, and very important that people with disabilities are playing disabled characters. I think we've seen a lot in the past that if we see a character online or on in a movie or in a TV show, that it's actually played by someone who is not disabled. And that's not right, because we have actors like yourself that have disabilities that should be playing those roles. So I think that was really cool about the movie, or about the short film, and also bringing awareness to the LGBTQ side of things. And that awareness, again, it brings that conversation to everyone, that people with disabilities are sexual beings. They explore relationships, they want to date, and it's not a taboo thing, and it shouldn't be. And we should be telling these stories because they're true and they're real. And so I think that was very, very powerful for me when I watched it. And I hope it was very powerful for other people as well. I constantly share it with the students that I teach, with everybody I interact with, because I just love it so much.
Thank you for your insight on First X.
Of course, of course. And congratulations to you in doing that short film. That was such a huge thing.
Thank you. What are some of your other passions outside of working in education?
That's a great question. I feel like I'm still trying to figure that out. I don't know what hobbies and passions are. But I think I've just gone to school for such a long time that that is my passion. But I things that I like to do for fun. Ooh, I love to travel, and that's so a fun fact. I'm going to Portugal in November. And so I'm very excited about that. I am going for work to present at a conference, but we are going to be staying for a week. So we're going to do a little bit of exploring as well, which will be a lot of fun. So I love to travel and to go to new places and to experience new things. I love, hanging out with friends. I technically I'm not a Michigander because I was not born in Michigan, but that's my family has lived there the longest now, and I call that home. And so I love Lake Michigan and the Midwest. And so, being around the lake is a lot of fun. I love to dance. I don't dance much anymore because my body has failed me. It's just with the older that I get. But I recently actually took an adult tap class, so I got back into tap dancing, which was a lot of fun. So I think I'm needing to do more of that. I need to do more fun things outside of just work.
I love to travel too. I really enjoy Portugal, and I can give you some tips, and it's very beautiful.
I would love to hear all of your recommendations, Nicole. I know the last time that we talked when you went to Portugal, it sounded like you had a blast. And so I've never been to that kind of area of Europe before. And so I was definitely gonna ask you before you went what, you know, places you love to eat at, or, places that you went to go shopping or just like do. So I'm very excited to talk to you about that because it seems like a very beautiful place.
It really is,
Oh, I love that.
especially when the sun goes down.
Oh, really? Do they have some nice sunsets over there?
Yes,
Yeah. I don't know what the weather's going to be like in November. When did you go?
June.
In June? Okay, so I'm assuming it was kind of warm.
It was hot.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know if it's going to be really hot in November. I like the cool weather, so that would be kind of fun. But yeah, no, I am super excited to go.
What are some of the projects you're currently working on?
Hmm. Great question. So we actually, you and I and a friend of mine, Joshua, we just wrapped up a project where we talked about self-determination, but we called it queering self-determination. So looking at the idea that people with disabilities um, should have the ability to be educated and to nurture who they are, their sexuality, their gender identity. So that was a really cool project that you and I worked on. And so we put that out in the universe. Let's hope that it gets good positivity and it gets published. Some other things that I'm currently working on. I'm writing a book. So I am interviewing. It's a book that's highlighting the experiences of people with disabilities related to work. So what I really want this to be is a conduit almost for individuals and their families for us to get a good like in-depth look at the experiences that people go through transitioning from high school into employment. um, and so it's probably going to be a long project, but I'm super excited for it because I want to spend the time getting to know people and like visiting them and observing kind of their life and really co-creating this book with these individuals. Because I also think in research and such, we don't do a great job at, as researchers, we're kind of like, oh, hey, we're doing all the work. Let's get all this information from these participants, and then that's it. Where I really want to make this space that, again, I'm not the expert in these experiences, they all are. And how can we share those stories? So that's a big project that I'm doing right now, and really taking up the majority of my time.
What legacy would you want to leave through your work?
Hmm, it's a really good question. It's a very, very good question. Hmm. Oh, I'm sorry. This is stumping me. I I don't know. I I I don't know if I want necessarily a legacy, if that makes sense. Let me explain what I mean by that. So I don't do any of this work because I want to like make a name for myself. Not that I think that's a bad thing, by all means. But that's personally why like I haven't done this work and supporting these people is I don't want to be the next, you know, I don't know. I'm not doing it just to kind of get the accolades and like for my own ego and whatnot. I really do want to like help people and to like be a conduit to support people with disabilities and their families, especially in terms of, this transition to work. And so I think my legacy is just doing that, just being very intentional about the work that I do, being very mindful that, again, I'm uplifting the experiences of people with disabilities and their families. And I'm not kind of perpetuating this, these negative stereotypes, and I'm trying to dismantle that. So, I just keep that in the back of my mind with everything that I do, and I'm honestly I'm happy kind of leaving it at that. Um, I don't know if that fully answers your question, but it's an interesting thing to think about.
I can see your legacy being a kind, caring professor and friend.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Nicole. Oh, that means a lot.
You're welcome. So thank you for coming on to the No Show. I really appreciate it.
I am so honored to be here, Nicole. Thank you so much. And it's always a pleasure to talk with you and to work with you. And I'm so excited for, the continuation of our friendship and our relationship together. And there's not a lot of people that I can say I work well with and I'm also really good friends with. And you're one of those people. So that's special. So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for allowing me to be in this space with you.
Thank you so much. It's time to reunite to fight for human rights. Here's your call to action. March 21st is World Down Syndrome Day, a global awareness day that has been officially observed by the United Nations since 2012. The date was chosen to represent the number 21 in trisomy 21, which is the gene with an extra chromosome. It's a day to celebrate all of the achievements made by people with T21 and raise awareness about the condition. As a woman born with T21, I often find myself reflecting on the labels that society attaches to people like me. I prefer to use the term trisomy 21 or T21 over Down syndrome. The term Down syndrome carries with it a heavy load of stereotypes and misconceptions that do not reflect who I am as a person and can be limiting. The term Down syndrome was named after Dr. John Down, who identified the medical condition. First and foremost, the label Down syndrome is often associated with negative assumptions. Many people hear that term and immediately think of who lacks potential or is unhealthy. This is not only inaccurate, but also deeply unfair. Each individual, regardless of their medical condition, has unique strengths, dreams, and capabilities. By labeling me with a term that invokes outdated stereotypes, society risks giving me a narrow identity that overlooks my individuality. People may overlook my accomplishments, interests, and personality. I want to be seen as a person first, rather than being defined by a diagnosis. This desire for recognition is universal. We all want to be seen and heard and feel valued for who we are, not what we have. There are pros to using labels. They can provide clarity for a medical professional to help individuals find communities where they feel understood. However, the cons far outweigh these benefits. Labels can create stigma, making it harder for individuals to be accepted and appreciated for their true selves. Even the word disability is a negative label, a more empowering term to use instead of disability is diverse ability. This term highlights the diverse abilities and strength of individuals rather than focusing solely on limitations. Everyone has unique talents and contributions to offer, fostering a more inclusive perspective. Diverse ability aims to celebrate individuality and capability. So while labels can serve a purpose, they can also be harmful, especially for individuals with T21. I urge everyone to look beyond the labels and see the human being beneath. We all deserve to be recognized for our unique qualities, rather than being defined by a medical term. It does not encompass the fullness of our lives. Let us challenge the stereotypes and embrace the rich diversity of humanity, allowing each person to define themselves on their own terms. Thank you. Don't blink, you might miss the rapid fire questions. Ready, set, go. So let's have a little bit of fun and do some rapid fire questions.
Oh, I love it. Yes, please.
If you weren't doing a career that you have now, what
Mm.
other career would you do?
I would be an astronaut. I love space. If I had the chance to go to space tomorrow, I would immediately do it. Immediately.
What is the best advice that someone has given you?
Good question. To take a step back. So, really quick, what I mean by that is I forget who exactly told me, but if you're creating a space or if you're leading a team, if you're teaching a class, to be present in that moment, to take a step back and just look at all the work that you've done, or just look at life in the moment and take 5 minutes to be present. And so that has always really stuck to me. And so no matter what I do, I try to stop for a second and just live in the moment of that experience.
I love that advice.
I think it's important. We're in a very busy world, and so it's important to be present.
Who has influenced your life?
Ooh, wow. That's a tough one. I was There's so many people. It's a very long list. You're on that list. I think I like to surround my people who just, influence me in very positive directions and that I can learn from. And, I've learned so much from you and all the work that you do. I've learned so much from my family and kind of, all the work that they do. And so I don't know if there's a single person that I could point out. It is a very long list. I think every single person influences me in some sort of way.
That's amazing. That's very kind and caring of you.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
What is something nobody knows about you?
Ooh, something that nobody knows about me. I own a lot of shoes, probably like over like 100 pairs of shoes. And so it's an obsession, really.
OMG.
It is quite a lot. And a lot of them I haven't worn in like over 10 years. So do I need them? Probably not, but just in case, I still have them.
That's adorable. Since this is the no-no show, I'd like to ask you what you think the big no-no in our modern society.
Ooh, that's a good question. I think right now, going back to kind of our political climate, I think we live in a world where it's unacceptable to not know what's happening and to not educate ourselves. And I know that kind of comes off harsh. And I think there are many different reasons why, people believe a certain way or they aren't educated about certain topics. I don't think that we do a great job as a society to educate everybody. And I think that's part of our problem. But we live in such, you can pick up your phone and know exactly what's happening in the moment. Now, is all that information always true? Probably not. But we have the resources. And so for me, I think, especially with everything that's happening right now and a lot of rights that are being taken away from people, especially those who have been historically marginalized or continue to be, is that I think it's unacceptable for people not to understand what is happening and to not be informed. And so I think that's my biggest no-no. I know there's many reasons why people aren't educated and informed. And so I do my part in trying to, impart that or to give people resources. But um it's tiring sometimes to and I don't know if you feel the same way, but it's tiring sometimes to educate people on an aspect of yourself that they should already know or that they could do their own research about. And I think we put too much ownership on people who have been historically marginalized to educate everybody else. And I think it's time for everybody else to do the educating, if that makes sense.
It does. Being ignorant, it's not okay, and we need to talk about it to what people can do.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree. And I again in this modern society, I it's not okay to be checked out. I think maybe in the past it was a little bit more acceptable because we couldn't get information immediately, but we do get information immediately. And I think it's not okay to not have an opinion on all of these different things that are currently going on in our world. So I 100% agree with you on that.
And we also need allies.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have to. And because without allies, then people are just going to continue to be marginalized and erased. And that's not okay.